There are nearly 4 million long-haul truckers in the United States. These are 5 of their scariest accounts from life driving on the road. The 5th story comes from a man driving west of Detroit on I-94. I was going into Detroit about 2 a.m., driving in the construction zone, when I saw a heavy-set elderly lady in a raincoat standing behind her car in a construction zone, waving her arms for me to stop. I couldn't stop, so I turned around the next exit, circled back, and pulled up behind the broken-down car with my 4 ways on. 2 heads popped up from behind the seats, and a young guy came back to the truck. I told him to get everyone out of the car, and I would take them to the gas station where they could get some help. He got his wife from the car, and they got into my truck and shut the passenger door. I looked at them and said, "Is this everybody? Where's the elderly lady?" The couple looked puzzled and asked what I was talking about. So I told them the story about the old lady flagging me down and described her to the couple. Immediately, the woman burst into tears and said that she had heard the guardian angels look like deceased relatives. She went on to explain that her grandmother had passed away earlier that year, and I had just described her grandmother to a T. At number 4, a man describes unusual sights above the southwestern sky. New Mexico, Nevada, and Utah are some states that, to this day, I still see shit in the skies I can't explain. Lights rapidly changing direction and taking off at blinding speeds, but no sound barrier being broken. I've seen lights hovering over the desert several miles off the interstate. Then it suddenly takes off and the lights cut out. Various shapes and sizes from what I can make out. I know military aircraft pretty well, and some of them more than likely were, but some of them absolutely cannot be military aircraft currently in mainstream use. Conventional aircraft don't move like that. The most vivid one would be at an off-ramp in New Mexico. I stopped to take a piss and decided to turn it into my 15-minute break since my ass was sore anyway. As I'm stargazing and admiring how clear the sky is, I saw what looked like a formation of lights in the shape of a triangle lift off from the desert floor and then take off into the sky. I kept my eyes on it. It just kept gaining altitude until the lights just disappeared. I looked down at my watch. I notice it's not ticking. So I pull out my phone, and it's off. I turn my phone on. And according to the time on my phone, it had been 5 minutes since my watch stopped. I felt like whatever it was that just took off had something to do with it. At number 3, a man driving the windy mountainous roads from New Mexico into Pueblo describes the interaction with the paranormal. It was my first time dealing with anything like the Rocky Mountains, so I was just taking it nice and slow with my hazards on, in the right lane. This was during the spring, and there wasn't much snow on the ground, just aside from the light dusting. I remember passing another truck pulled to the side shoulder on my way up. Nothing out of the ordinary. However, as I was heading down the mountain, which can be scary as shit in the 18-wheeler, trust me, I saw the same truck I passed earlier fly by me in the left-hand lane. Now, being passed on the left going downhill in the Rocky Mountains by another tractor trailer is crazy enough. But what really makes this story is the guy's trailer brakes were on fire. And you know anything about trucks, and you know there's only so much braking you're supposed to do before they overheat and, worst case, catch fire. This guy's truck looked like a comet as he sped down the mountain at what I thought was surely to be a deadly pace. I grabbed the mic to the radio, called out to him, "Hey, driver, your brakes are on fire. I mean, literally on fire." After a few seconds of static, a rough and weathered sounding voice comes back over the speaker of my radio and says, cool as a cucumber, "I know." And he disappeared around a curve and never saw any wrecked truck, emergency crews, or even mention of an accident on the radio. I did see a discarded fire extinguisher on the ground in the base of the mountain, though. Just one of many awesome stories. At number 2, a driver in the Pennsylvania night had to do a double take at who he saw at the side of the road. My first couple of years, I was a night driver, so it was hard to see things sometimes. But the one in PA was me trying to follow a flatbedder who was hauling serious ass through the mountains. At one point, I start to fall back because I can feel the van starting to lean. It wasn't long after that, I reached down to take a swig off the handy monster I had, and I look up, and there's a guy standing off the shoulder just outside the tree line, wearing in what appeared to be some type of soldier's uniform. Looked like Revolutionary War era. He had a musket as well. As I approach, I can see him staring right at me. And then he starts walking back into the tree line, still looking at me. Before he manages to make it through the trees, he disappears. Like literally vanishes in thin air. I had my windows down, and the air in the area got real cold. After about a mile, the air warmed up again. I had a really sad feeling come over me for a while afterward. Needless to say, I didn't stop for the rest of my shift. And at number 1, a female truck driver tells the creepy story as to why she had to wake up her co-driver in the middle of the night. Warning, if you don't like spiders, this isn't for you. I was driving in Arizona when I saw what I thought were leaves blowing across the road in the distance. This was puzzling, as there's mostly pine trees in northern Arizona. When I finally got to the leaves, I realized that there were migrating tarantulas, thousands of them. There were so many of them that my truck was sliding on their guts, so I had to slow down. I stopped at my first truck stop, told my co-driver to fuel up. He was sleeping at the time, because I wasn't going to step foot outside after what I just saw. My co-driver was pissed since it was technically his time off, and he thought I was crazy. Maybe I was. Until he saw the tarantula guts and legs caked inside the wheel well of the truck. He's never seen anything like it before. These have been the 5 scariest accounts from long-haul truckers across America.